Good morning and welcome to the Handicappers Report for Saturday, January 13th. Seth Merrill and Brian Addo. Good morning, Brian.
Morning, Seth. How are we today?
Very good. Want to remind people, listen to the Handicappers Report here on the network, or if you don't get the chance, mark it that you can go over to the podcast link on the website anytime as well and pull it up there, capitalotb.com. Also want to thank our friends at Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park, champions start here. And Brian, you're down in Florida, so give us a little update. Wednesday at Gulfstream, they were off the turf. What was the weather like that led to that, and how's it been the last few days?
Yeah, it was really rainy on Monday and especially Tuesday. I was a little shocked they were off the turf, though, because Wednesday it really wasn't that bad, and the rain cleared out Wednesday afternoon. But I think they probably wanted to play it safe. But the good news is now no rain in the forecast for the rest of the weekend. A little on the cool side Saturday and Sunday if you've been in South Florida. High 60s, low 70s. Pretty chilly at night, too. Upper 40s, Seth. But it will be a nice day out at Gulfstream. Like I said, no rain. And anytime you see a forecast with that in South Florida this time of the year, you'll take it. So probably want, if you're down at Gulfstream Park or you're coming down, probably want to bring maybe a sweater, a windbreaker kind of thing, but I don't think you have to bring the umbrellas, which is really all we care about.
Sounds good, although up here we're living with the umbrella and 60 degrees today, so there's a good trade-off.
Yeah, it's craziness up there, but I'm sure you're not complaining either after we talked last week and you were struggling to get in single digits.
Yeah,
so,
this is definitely balmy, yeah. All right, I want to go back to last week before we talk about Saturday afternoon. I want to get your opinion because I'm sure you looked at the 3-year-old races, West Coast and East Coast. Mackenzie out on the West Coast, nice performance there. But, boy, Mask certainly looked good in the Mucho Macho Man at Gulfstream last Saturday. It's early, baby steps on the Derby trail, but I think these both have the potential to be players.
Oh, without a doubt. Pretty cool that, not only that, but that we're seeing potential Derby horses on, January 6th. That was pretty neat, too. I don't necessarily know, Seth, if we found anything out about Max. I mean, somehow he just fell onto the lead, and they walked early on. And, he's a really, really nice colt. So I think it was somewhat predictable after you saw the half-mile split, especially over that racetrack, that he was going to run off. Played out almost like a turf race, very, very slow early, very fast late. He did it impressively. He was supposed to do it impressively. Apparently, I did see Chad mention maybe the Risen Star at Fairgrounds next time, which I thought was interesting. It probably also says Good Magic might be surfacing in the Fountain of Youth. So he'll get a stiffer test next time wherever it is. It'll be a 2-turn race. As well, Mask didn't get any points on Saturday, but certainly tossed his hat into the ring that he's a legitimate 3-year-old to be reckoned with. And we already knew that about Mackenzie, but he kind of behaved a little better than he did at Los Alamitos. He got put up at Los Alamitos, but he's definitely one of Bafford's the best 3-year-olds. Obviously, Bob's got several of them that are going to sort themselves out. Don't forget, though, it is early January, and these horses can grow up or take a step back overnight. So there is a long, as you know, Seth, and our friends back home know, there is a long, long way out to the first Saturday in May for many, many different reasons. So it's cool to, if nothing else, like I said, it's cool to see some big names pop up very early in the game.
We might get a barometer on the Southern California runners, though, Saturday afternoon in the LeCompte. Instilled Regard comes in off a third-place finish in that Los Al Futurity, and I think he's going to be an interesting, as I say, kind of barometer towards Mackenzie. And it seems like the past few years on the Derby Trail, those Southern California horses coming east have done pretty well.
I agree, Seth, and I'm actually going to be at that race tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, nice.
I haven't been to Fairgrounds before, so I'm looking forward to it. And I haven't sussed it all out, but I think you're right. I think he's in a really good spot. I'm leaning towards him. California class, he's fast on paper. He's fast on the stopwatch, too. There's not a lot in the LeCompte, with the exception of Principe Gilliam. But I tend to agree with you, and as you very astutely mentioned, Southern California has held all the aces in recent years, and I think until it's proven otherwise, you have to take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, enjoy the trip. I was down there a few years ago on my swing to Oaklawn and Fairgrounds, and I spent a couple of days at Fairgrounds. Had the beignets and went over and had the po' boy and did the whole thing. The track is really nice, and of course, New Orleans, a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I do know how to have fun. So Oaklawn remains after Saturday. Oaklawn will be the one stone that I have yet to turn over. So yeah. I really want to get there. We'll see if it shakes out this year.
Yeah, I'm sure you like the track, and yes, I'm confident you will find your way around New Orleans as well.
We have met before. So.
You and Joe Christofek, I'm sure we'll make the most of the weekend. All right, let's jump into Gulfstream for Saturday afternoon. The opener on Saturday at Gulfstream. Maiden 20 claimers scheduled on the grass at 1 1/16. What do you think in race 1?
Well, you're going to like me more, Seth. I went with your guy, Jonathan Shepard. I think 7-4-3-8 for the one-seed folks back home. And I'm kind of just going with the fresh new face, Seth. We've seen all these horses down at Gulfstream, what they can do, what they can't do. I ran a stand for Jonathan, is progressing on figures. He's only run twice. He's only run once for a tag. He's moving up. So I'm going to take a shot with him in a race where, the proven locals just do nothing for me. Rhythm of Simard is okay. He figures on paper. He'll be in front of my pick early on. I don't want too short of a number on that horse. Another softball is now 0 for 14 with 7 underneath finishes. You got to go outside for Family Justice, 0 for 16 with 7 underneath finishes. I'm going to take the one set that hasn't really shown me yet that he hates winning a horse race, and that looks like he's coming up to a good one for one of the best horsemen of all time. So I'll put Iranistan on top in the opener.
All right, and do want to remind people that they can pull up the handicapper support sheet every racing day at capitalotb.com, and on the Gulfstream racing days, your matrix is there with thoughts on the horizontal plays and some exacta thoughts as well, kind of an A, B, C breakdown on the horses. So again, folks can pull that up anytime they want to, capitalotb.com. Race 2 at Gulfstream, a conditional claimer, 16 tags, non-winners of 2 lifetime, again on the grass at 8.5 furlongs.
Steep spread, Saturday. 4-1, 8, 11, 12. If you're playing that early pick 5, if you're playing the early pick 4, which starts right here, I would want to use a lot of them. I went Knight Errant. He's got that angle you talk about a lot. I liked a lot the old light bulb angle. He finally broke through for Zito last time. Nick won a lot of turf races here last winter, surprisingly, and Knight Errant got the job done at GPW in November. Facing winners for the first time is never easy. But you know what? This horse finally broke through, and he did it in a big way. So maybe he's got some confidence working, and he's going to bounce right back. And that happens a lot of times with these lifetime maidens. When they break through, sometimes they figure it out, and they win right back. I hope Knight Errant does it at a fair number here. One of a kind, saves all the ground down inside, just missed at the level last time. Tyler Gaffignon. If you guys haven't seen him, and we don't get to see him a lot on a regular basis in New York, well, he is a really, really good rider. He is, I'll say he's like the one big horse away from becoming that. I've just seen him all winter, and he's really impressed me. I'll put One of a Kind in second. Then we got to go outside, set me up. The 11 could be the 12 way outside Leopard Cat. They all could win. They're all underlay prices. They're all at the mercy of the pace, and they all drew poorly. So I'd say tread very lightly there, folks. I'll take a shot with Knight Errant in a second.
You mentioned Tyler Gaffleone. I'll throw another name out there. Now, obviously, since arriving, both of the Ortiz brothers have done very well. But, boy, Luis Saez, he's red hot.
Yeah, I think Saez benefited too, Steph. He came down here very early, and I think that probably helped them pick up some business while the Ortiz brothers, Jose certainly out with that minor knee injury. Irad kind of dodging the weather here, there, and everywhere in New York. And I think Luis Saez got down here early, was able to pick up some barns, some horses, and you're right, he's firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, he's one you definitely have to. He's become one of those guys at this meet, at this venue, at this time, that you have to consider as horses. You have to look at the jockey and see what he's riding, and maybe that's when you're going to, and now with the Ortiz brothers as well down there. Gulfstream's third race, maiden claimer, 12.5 tags, 3/4 of a mile.
Well, you set it up right on a tee for me, Seth, because I'm going 371, and I'm going 271 here, who has Luis Saez. Armando de la Cerda does a very, very good job. Typically with the Midwest courses, this is not one of them, but he's 24% first out. He's 4 for 12 debuting in a maiden claimer, and maybe more importantly, he's 10 for 43 at the meet. This course, 271, the works don't necessarily whisper ready, but boy, the competition sure does. He meets no one in here. It's a very weak field. I would think 271's in here to run well. As it happens, certainly the horse to beat has improved. It got better in his second start, has speed, drew perfectly. That was his first start on the main track with Chuck Simon last out. As it happens, deserves to be 8-5 on that morning line. And then down inside, Uncle Mace has a little speed. I think it's a tough post for him with speed to his outside, but he looks good enough to hang around for a little bit. He wasn't beaten that much by As It Happens last time. I think if you use those three, you're okay in here. I don't see a lot else.
Yeah, and I like Cantheros as a precocious siren. I'm just pulling up the stats. Yeah, the last year, 52 first-time starters, 10 of them have hit the exacta. Another 9 ran third, so we're talking 19 out of 52 in the money. So 271 attracts my attention just on the sire angle as well. All right, let's move on. Race number 4 at Gulfstream. This one a plain vanilla claimer, the $16,000 level, back on the grass at 1 1/16.
Yeah, pretty straightforward here. Seth, 3 over the 9-10 on the 1-sheet. Boss man, you're perfectly stiff class drop for Jason Service, who's as good as anybody for my money. Nick Juarez has ridden a lot of horses. Nick Juarez, another young, up-and-coming jockey that maybe we don't know too much about in New York. I know he did ride Belmont a little bit in the fall. This horse, I think, is the best horse to begin with, and then really gets the benefit of the post position over horses like Lay That Pistol Down and Nia Classic, who I've got second and third, and they can certainly win. Lay That Pistol Down over the 10, and that's because he's got tactical speed, maybe to negate this wide draw a little bit, whereas Nia Classic, you know, he broke 14 of 14 in the Claiming Crown last out. He's going to take all the worst of it again here. He's probably going to have to pass the entire field. Not a recipe for success at Gulfstream Park on the turf or on the main track, anywhere for that matter, but really that gets compounded at Gulfstream. This is pretty straightforward. I think if you're looking for a single in the early 5 or 4, I think Boss Man could be at 3, 9, 10 for me, Seth.
You know, it just came to my mind. This is kind of off topic, but as you were talking, for some reason, I thought, because we did it on the Sunday show last week, we showed the replay, and now it's about 2 weeks old. But did you see where Jaramillo, and that's what got me, I was thinking of Jaramillo and Juarez, the last race where the guy would have had the $600,000 Rainbow Six and the horse ducked out and Jaramillo fell off?
We were, my friend and I were watching from a beachside bar that, I think that was a Friday. He was down over a holiday. We had played, but we had already been busted out, so we were watching but didn't necessarily know the ramifications. But we saw it live, and then I got a couple Twitter hits and stuff, and I said to him, somebody just lost for that. And we just looked at each other kind of like, wow. How could you ever sleep again? How could you ever play the races again? I mean, oh, my goodness. If you want to, if nothing else, you clinch the bad beat story for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that I said, you know, we've all had bad beats, and, you know, you get beat out with something fluky and a $200 exacta, and you want to pull your hair out. But at this point now, forevermore, I'm thinking of that guy, because he had to be on his way to the window. That was a sure thing. He was 4 in front with a 16th to go, and the horse that was second was not making up any ground.
Oh, that was brutal. And the horse didn't break down either. And not that I'm, you know, I feel bad saying that, but you get my point in that he basically just kind of fell off. Like, oh boy, that was tough.
Yeah,
that would make me hesitate a little bit when I hit submit button on my Capital
and again,
for a big wager.
and again, for folks, for folks who weren't familiar, it was the last race at Gulfstream, and that was a single ticket holder for the Rainbow Six pool, which I believe at that point was like 600,000, and he just, that was the all-time bad beat at this point in my book. All right, fifth race at Gulfstream today. We are looking at maiden 12.5s going 6 furlongs.
Yeah, this is your single, folks, and I've advocated it a lot. We kick off a middle pick 4 here, too. Don't forget that. Don't overlook that. But we end the 5 in the early 4 here, and this is straight 8-6 to the hoop. It's also Rita. I don't want to hit on it too much, but the morning line at Gulfstream is a very, very weak one, and Salsa Rita might pay 380 in here. Don't think you're going to get 3-1. Look at that morning line. Think you're going to get 3-1. You might get 3-5. You will not get 3-1. She simply lays over this field. It was her lone dirt start last time. She was beaten ahead at 7-1. I know you're a buyer guy, Seth. That 51 absolutely rubs this field by about 5 to 7 lengths. No one else in here. The highest other number in here is a 39. Is a 44, but that's on the turf. The other high numbers are on the turf as well. Salsa Rita, this looks like name the score time. That's a single to end it. Underneath Total Treasure, I guess she ran pretty solid, although be it very slow to be second at the level last time. If Salsa Rita, if her gates open, she's supposed to win this probably at 4 to 5. So I think, to me, the play is single her as the anchor and spread earlier in some races. I talked about a couple of them, Seth, where I thought you could go 5, 6, 7 deep, chaotic races. I wouldn't play against her.
All right, and before we take our break, let's take a look at race number 6 on the 12-race card on Saturday afternoon. It's an optional claimer starter allowance, both at the 35,000 level. Race number 6 goes 6 furlongs.
Yeah, this is the beauty of having a single to kick off a pick 4, because I couldn't figure this race out at all. Steph, 4-3-7-2-5 on the 1 sheet. I thought it was a deep spread. I've got Mucho Prospect on top. I thought the win last time in the starter 50 was very, very sharp. The number was very big. I don't necessarily trust it, but it is the benchmark in this race, so I put him on top. But I think Millionaire Runner at a nice price for Jaime Mejia, who never wins, but this horse is taking a stiff class drop out of the Remsen. The run 2 back at Parks was a romp. Plenty of foundation off those 2-turn runs. He's going to be a number in here. I thought he was pretty playable. Star Wancho figures from the outside from a nice attack post down inside. Always streamer. Tenacity Zip is on my ticket as well. I'm going to use them all, Seth, and that's largely in part because A, I don't have any confidence in any of them, and B, they're really not a big separation on paper between any of them. So I kind of want to blanket this one. I think I'm going to be alive by using those 5 to get out.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll complete our look at Gulfstream for Saturday afternoon. A little bit later, Aqueduct. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Handicappers Report here on Capital OTB TV. And don't forget, you can always catch us also on the podcast link on capitalotb.com. Seth Merrill and Brian Nadeau, we are taking a look currently at Gulfstream Park, and we're going to jump right back in with race number 7, which on Saturday kicks off the Rainbow Six on a 12-race card. Race 7 and maiden special weight event going 6 furlongs.
Yeah, and you get the benefit, as Seth mentioned, the Rainbow kicks off, and if it does carry to tomorrow, as we film this Friday, it was at 1.6, I believe. So we're going to be approaching 2 million very, very quickly. You get the benefit of looking at the tote board here, and that's a big deal because there are some first-time starters in here, especially number 8, Matt Moon, my top pick, who you would think are going to take action. So have the tote in here, folks. The 11 raising the flag for Service, Jose Ortiz in the West, Son of Tappet. These are horses that are supposed to be bet. Make sure you look at the tote before you act. I've got Matt Moon on top. It's Fletcher. It's Luis Saez, kind of, we'll call it third guy when Javier and John Velasquez aren't available. He'd like to go to Saez. Seth mentioned him earlier, and I agree wholeheartedly. as good as there is down there. I think he's riding very, very well. Magna Moon draws well. They spent a lot of money for a Son of Malibu Moon. We know what Todd does first time out. We know what Todd does at Gulfstream Park, too. This could be a horse that just runs off the screen and, runs that 108 buyer we see Todd's horses do every year down there. I'll put him on top. Under a Spell is interesting for me for Goldberg in Colts Next Stable. Irad's here. Tail the cat out of a cap in there. They paid $275 for this guy. The works are solid. Goldberg, I picked him last on the turf. He didn't really run much, but I think Under a Spell with Irad here says they've got some intent. The work's certainly a big, big work. Don't sleep on him. Outside the Raising the Flag, as I mentioned, first for service. Jose Ortiz is here. I think that bodes well. But, Son of Tappet out of a Milwaukee Broomare is probably not going to be doing his thing going 6 furlongs. So maybe we get him at a flat mile next out. Dirty is 2-1 on the morning line. And, I guess that's because he ran against Mast and Navistar, next out winners. He was also beaten the length of the stretch by them both. So Jeremiah puts blinkers on out of already a very fast horse. I'm sure he'll be in front, but I'm sure he won't be 2-1, and I'm also sure I don't want anything to do with him at 2-1. I don't really get that price. He was an okay second in a slow race on debut at Saratoga behind Entice, but neither of those numbers are even going to crack the Superfecta here. Dirty at an underlaid price, I think, is probably worth trying to play again.
All right, let's move on to race number 8. Another conditional claimer, 16,000 tags, non-winners of 3 lifetime on the grass at 7.5.
Yeah, tough race. 4, 7, 10, 6 for me. And this is the first one. I talked about it a lot last week, but you can't not talk about it. Going 7.5 on the turf, I have no idea why they card these races, but you have to be inside. And that's why I took Famous back. He's not the best horse, but he's got tactical speed. He just got through the 2Ls. He does step up today. He'll be on or near the lead. There doesn't look like a ton of speed in here, and he's drawn inside some of his main contenders, and I think that's the biggest thing. And it'll be a price. I put him on top. I don't love him. It's a spread race in the rainbow. If you're playing the late pick 5, it's a spread race to me. Sound Values is tactical enough, I think, to negate this tough draw. In the 7 post is not the end-all, be-all. It's more when you get out to 9 further. So Sound Values is probably the horse to beat for Rodriguez and Calabrese. Would be no surprise. I've got him in second. The draw really hurts Uncle B. He's way out there. He's going to lose ground into the first turn. He did it last time when he dueled late, but he broke from the 11 hole. He was able to negate it a little bit. I'm going to play against him in here. And Il Ferion certainly figures as well. Wasn't far behind Uncle B or Sound Values. Wouldn't shock me at all. You got Louis, a huge stock upgrade. We've talked about Saez a lot today. To go from Meneses to Saez is a giant upgrade. He'll be able to work out a trip. Don't sleep on him. I don't know if you're going to see 15 on this horse, but even 8 or 10 is fair value in a horse. Certainly figures on paper. It gets the big stock upgrade of anyone in here.
All right, we move on to race number 9, some stakes action down at Gulfstream on Saturday afternoon. The Marshalls River Grade 3 event, $150,000 up for grabs for the fillies and mares on the grass at 8.5 furlongs.
Yeah, I'm going to play for a little surprise here. 7-5-8 for me. Ultra Blatt for Graham. Did some nice things towards the end of the year. Is going to stretch out and run 2 turns on turf for the first time. There's sprint speed here. Nick Juarez probably could get to the front if he wants. If this gal catches a flyer at the start, he's by Uncle Mo out of a Stormcat mare. Graham's taking her time, taking his time with her. He actually owns a win at the distance. That goes over the course. Second time he's going 2 turns. I saw the race at Belmont. I think she's the right play in here at a price, and that's partly because Green Dancing, who I've got in third, a couple things going against her. She's going to take on older stakes fillies for the first time. That's one. She hasn't been out since October. That's 2. She's quite frankly not very fast. That's 3. And I say that on figures, so that's before I say certainly not very fast on the track. She has no speed whatsoever. Yes, she's 2 for 2 over the Gulfstream Park Turf Course. I get that. But that was an optional claimer in a Grade 3 race where she ran 2 numbers that aren't even going to crack the top 3 here. So she's got to pick it up in a big way. I know it's Cassie. I know it's Irad. I think she's a type stuff you're supposed to play against, especially in her 4-year-old debut. Gianna's Dream's the one I've got in second. Very tactical, versatile for Maker. Comes off a heartbreaking loss to On Leave in the grade 3 Mike Charmer right here. Stretches out just a little bit. She's going to work out a trip too. She'll be fair price just because they'll go bonkers on Dream Dancing. I've got it 7-5, 8 sets. I'll play for a little bit of a surprise. Dream Dancing might be a big single in a lot of the horizontals. I think it's time to play again.
All right, let's move on to race number 10. We go down to the basement as far as claimers. 6,250 the tags, 3/4 of a mile the trip.
Well, this is one of those races where it's the old use one or use all of them. And I just used one set, and you got to go 5 pages deep. Our buddy Anthony Mormino, we always used to joke on the air. This is a 5-pager. Starship Apollo just looks better than a very, you mentioned, it's the bottom level. It's a weak group. It's a slow group. Starship Apollo, 2 stiff flap stops. I mean, he was 6th in the claiming ground, 2 back, and then he was in a pretty good optional claimer last time. He's just better than these. I don't like the wide draw. Of course not. But if he runs anything close to his last 2, he's going to win this comfortably. I'll put him on top. He's a for me. If you look at the one sheet, it's 14, 6, 2, 13. No one else is getting into that A slot for me. Strong composition. Maybe that being a new face in here is not a bad thing. Larry Pilati struggled at the meet. He's 0 for 14. But I have a lot of respect for the Indiana Graham product. He comes out of those races a little bit slow on paper, and he was facing state breds for the most part. But I think he's in the right spot in his local debut, or getting back to Gulfstream, I should say, after a summer and a couple summers at Indiana Grand. Donegal Hall down inside. I don't know what happened last time. Maybe it was the mile. I don't know. But if you draw a line through it, his numbers against good fields certainly put him in the mix here. And then back outside, Bernardini has tactical speed. Just be lesser for fun. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Larry Ravelli, has a big barn, and he's brought stock here. I know he struggled early in the meet, but he's brought stock here that I'm sure he thinks to compete. Bernardini looks like that. But I think it's Starship Apollo's race to lose. 4-1 is very ambitious. How about 620 still on the board?
Let's take a look at another stakes race. Race number 11 on Saturday afternoon at Gulfstream Park. The Fort Lauderdale is a grade 2, $200,000, 4-year-olds and up. They're on the grass at 1 1/16.
Yeah, I've got an 8-6-3, Seth, but we need to talk about Heart to Heart. He's evens on the morning line. I think he probably will be somewhere in that area. Loves this turf course, 4 for 5. Comes out of a 10th place finish, beaten just 3 lengths in the Breeders' Cup Mile by world approval, a Horse of the Year finalist, and certainly the horse to beat. But you know what, Seth? It's not going to be easy for Heart to Heart in his comeback because he's got cheap speed to his inside, 1 go, all go, and he's got legitimate speed to his outside, and certainly Shining Copper, and then my pick, Shocky Knot, who's not pure speed, but he will sit a great trip today because I think nothing will be easy for Heart to Heart, and Shocky Knot's going to get first run. I will be the first to admit I have never been right on Shocky Knot. I loved him at Woodbine the day I was up there, 4 starts back. I take that back. I loved him in July when I was up there for the Queen's Plate, and he totally bombed. I used him at Woodbine 4 back, and he totally bombed. And now all of a sudden, I guess he's good again. I don't know. It's not on his page anymore. He had an absolutely awesome run in the Transylvania to kick off his 3-year-old season at Keeneland. That was his best race, and now all of a sudden he's good again. He enters off the Tropical Park grade 3 win where he gutted it out last time. I think he trips out tremendously. Roger Atfield's got him going good, very, very good. It's as good as he's ever been. He looks like the now horse, and he's going to be a price because you know darn well they're going to pound Heart to Heart. They're going to bet all included. My second choice, who Shocky Knot beat last time, but that was off a long layoff for Todd. He goes second off. He's going to benefit the most, Seth, if they go a little bonkers up front, and if that sucks up to my Shockey Mott, all included, is going to be the one to benefit. I'll put him in second. You have to use heart to heart. If you're playing the rainbow, if you're playing the late 5, the late 4, you've got to use him. I guess my overall point is he's not the single I think many people think he is, and he's certainly not value at even money. If you're ever going to beat him, it's today. Brian Lynch has done a great job with this guy, but a few different things against him. Not only the pace, he's now 7, and he's eligible to be a little long in the tooth. And also, we know it's a angle that's been talked about for 2 decades. But trying to beat good horses out of the Breeders' Cup is never a bad thing, and that's what Heart to Heart is today. I'm going to try to beat him.
All right, and finally, let's wrap things up at Gulfstream on Saturday evening. The 12th race will go off at about 5:30. It's an optional claimer with a C condition. Again, the popular Saturday distance on the grass of 1 1/16.
Well, it says it's going to go off at 5:30. So it's probably going to go 7. But anyway, 4-2-11 for me. It's a good race, and it's a race that'll funnel some horses into some turf races down the line here, 3-year-old stakes races down the line. Murad is 9-5 on the morning line. He is supposed to be favored. He was third at 90 cents on the dollar in the Pilgrim for Todd in an 11-horse field. I put him on top. I don't think he's necessarily 9-5 in here. He doesn't have a big edge. Sand Dancer intrigues me. I've got him in second. He's run very well in all 3 stakes, all 3 races. His figures compete with Murad. A couple of them are actually better. One of them is actually better than Murad. I like his comeback off the short break. He draws well in here. He will save a lot of ground, and he will run on late. Don't sleep on him, which should be a pretty nice number. And then Shanghai Noon took the worst of it from the draw. But coming out of a 5-furlong sprint in his debut, I would think he's got a lot of speed and will be teed up for Gaffalione. If he makes the front, if he's on a Sun mission, he could get brave. It would be pretty interesting because he's certainly bred for this, being by Shanghai Bobby out of a deputy minister mare. I'm going to use all 3 to try to get out of this race and leave it at that. Like I said, I think Murad is very formidable. I don't necessarily think he has the winning chance that his post-time odds will tell you.
All right, that wraps things up for Saturday at Gulfstream. Brian, I appreciate the visit, the thoughts. Again, folks can go to the website and pull up the handicapper support sheet. Every Gulfstream day, your matrix is on there with pick selections and some exact ideas and whatnot. Again, in that ABC kind of a format. Hey, enjoy the trip down to New Orleans, and we'll look for you. We'll see if Joe Kay can get you a guest appearance in the paddock.
Looking forward to it, Seth. Thanks so much. Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, it should be fun. Brian, thanks for joining us. All right, we will take a break. When we come back, we'll shift our attention to Aqueduct. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Just let Brian Nadeau loose. He's down in Florida. Talked a little Gulfstream for Saturday afternoon. I'm going to shift my attention to Aqueduct. Don't forget, if you missed Brian, you can always catch the Handicappers Report podcast version on the website, capitalotb.com. Click on the podcast link, and you can pick it up and listen at your convenience. All right, Aqueduct on Saturday afternoon. The opener kicks off at about 12:20. It's a 12:05 claimer. They're going to go 1.25 miles. And again, that's the fun of the new configuration, the main track being the wintertime track now, with the inner track being turned into a turf course earlier this year. There's the opportunity for some different distances that I think are going to make winter racing a lot more fun this year. But in the opener, I have a 2, 3, 5, and 1. Praterio on top. Was in a 20,000 claimer last time, fired a good numbers compared to this field, finished third in there. That was a 20 claimer, goes to 12.5 today. It's Rudy, Trevor McCarthy in for the ride. Some class relief, good number, good trainer, all adds up. Praterio on top. Conquest, Big Luck E in the second spot. Another horse that's getting some class relief off some good efforts. 2 seconds in the last 3 starts, was claimed 3 back. They got ambitious in the follow-up start and then went to another second-place finish, bookending that ambitious $25,000 claimer, but gets back to the comfort zone today and is clearly going to be a good, cozy fit. Try Flying in the third spot. Solid numbers, comparatively speaking, over the past few starts. And again, you would think this is the comfort zone. 3 starts back, was in a 10 claimer, won that, then went up to 16, Ran an okay fifth, but went to this 12.5 level last time and ran a good third. So again, think class-wise right in the comfort zone, albeit the top two are droppers that may have a little bit of an edge on the class move. So in the opener at Aqueduct on Saturday afternoon, I have a 2, 3, 5, and 1. Race number 2 at Aqueduct. It's a state-bred maiden special claimer for 3-year-olds, newly turned 3-year-olds, going 3/4 of a mile. 5, 1, 4, and 8. The number 5, Belleville Spring, 8-5 on the morning line. But this horse is clearly going to take a lot of action. Let me tell you, the number 1 off the career debut number may be in the mix. But Belleville Spring ran a good second in the career debut at Churchill. I've always said those fall 2-year-old races at Churchill are very salty. And then Belleville Spring comes up to face New York breds at Aqueduct in the New York Stallion Series, the middle of December, and just misses there. Both of those were with good numbers as compared to this field, and coming out of that New York Stallion Series near miss. I think the George Weaver runner, as I say, is going to be a very short-priced and deserving favorite. Now, in the second spot, I have Let Me Tell You. Pretty good career debut with a solid number, nice second-place finish. So this horse will take some action, but that debut is on the turf. So this horse is still going to have to prove itself on the main track. So there are question marks for that one. Third spot, we'll go with It's Hot Out. Nice series of races to start the career up at the Finger Lakes, and then came down to Aqueduct and ran a good second in a maiden 50, but with numbers that stack up really well with this bunch. It's Hot Out, also a player in here. Connolly's Beads might be a little bit interesting. Off an okay debut for Gary Gullo. Won't surprise me if Connolly's Beads steps up and improves in the second career start. I think it's going to go clearly through Belleville Spring, but the other ones have a little bit that you can hang your hat on if you want to take a shot against that one. Second at Aqueduct, 5, 1, 4, and 8. Third race at Aqueduct optional claimer, 62,500 tags, non-winners of 2 other than the condition. 1 turn, 1 mile is the trip. Short field of 5, for me 2, 3, 5, and 4. TR Crew on top. In a pretty competitive race. I mean, I think any of these on a best day can probably get it done. But off the last few numbers, it seems like you're either going TR Crew or Pioneer Spirit. I went back and forth as I handicapped. And I just looked at the last from TR Crew, which was also at the mile at Aqueduct and was a pretty good performance with Manny Franco on board. I think it just kind of signals maybe a horse for a course angle and a horse in good form. So I tilted towards TR Crew, but again, off the last couple of numbers, you can make a pretty strong case also for Pioneer Spirit, who had turf to dirt last time and fired a nice number. Again, however, I'll be interested to see where the betting public goes because Pioneer Spirit is slightly favored on the morning line. I have a feeling the betting public will go in my direction, and TR Crew will be the betting public's favorite. Interesting to watch that play out as well, but I can make a case for either one. I just tilted slightly in favor of 2 TR Crew over number 3 Pioneer Spirit and Flash Trading in the third spot, who also fired a really solid number last time, but did it with a come-from-behind effort, so you're always up against it a little bit if that's your style. But if this horse can go back-to-back with a couple of good numbers, also in the hunt. Third at Aqueduct, 2, 3, 5, and 4. The fourth race at Aqueduct on Saturday afternoon, January 13th, state-bred maiden 25 claimers, 3/4 of a mile, 6, 10, 5, and 9. The number 6 is Tammany Giant. Just got the wake-up call last time. I mean, just, if you buy the number, and sometimes buy BUY, if you buy into that, because it's a little bit of an aberration as compared to the first two. It's not even really a logical progression. And if it's start 1 to start 2, they can make a jump like that. This is start 2 to start 3. So I'm not absolutely sure I'm totally buying that number, but if you think it's even close to being true, probably has an edge on most in here. Lightly raced, maybe still some upside potential, plus some class relief. Tammany Giant makes sense on top. Second spot, Catapult Jack. 22 starts, hasn't gotten it done yet, but boy, you want to define a bridesmaid? 22 starts, 11 seconds. So yeah, this horse is firmly in the bridal party, but had two starts at the 25 level, 2 and 3 back, and ran a couple good second places. What else? But why not right in that mix again today? Catapult Jack in that second slot, and Barefoot Angel with 3 starts and 3 numbers that comparatively are okay, but also being lightly raced. Again, might have some upside potential. A little bit of a equipment change with the blinkers off on Saturday. Also a little bullet work in tow. Best of 65 may signal this horse has some good things coming up on Saturday afternoon. 4th at Aqueduct then, 6, 10, 5, and 9. Aqueduct's 5th race. It's a stakes race for the state breds, $100,000 in the Say Florida Sandy, 4-year-olds and up, sprinting 7 furlongs. I saw it 4, 5, 3, and 1. I put my boy Tate, the number 4 horse, on top. Pretty solid couple of starts since making a little comeback after a layoff from the Saratoga meet. Came back at Aqueduct 12th of November, won that pretty easily. Followed that up on the 9th of December, won that very easily. So this is just a horse in very, very good form that appreciates this track. Seems like a logical play in here, albeit moving into stakes company for the first time. Second spot, a horse with some stakes experience for Charlie Baker, Gold for the King. Also a nice effort on this track last time with a pretty solid number, 3 for 3 over the track, so also an appreciation for Aqueduct. And then Celtic Chaos goes out for Kieran McLaughlin and Zilla Racing. Ran a nice race last time, was 4th, but with a pretty solid number. But there are some back numbers that I thought were okay. Again, I think this is kind of a competitive race, and there are a few in here that on best effort could jump up and get it done. Seems to me like it maybe goes through the top 2, and then you can make a case underneath. But as I say, it tilted towards Celtic Chaos, Ostrolenka in the 4th spot. 5th at Aqueduct, 4, 5, 3, and 1. All right, we'll head to a break, the final break of this hour on the Handicapper's Report. Stay tuned, come back. We will complete our look at Aqueduct for Saturday, January 13th. Welcome back to the Handicapper's Report. We're looking at Saturday, January 13th, Aqueduct race number 6, $25,000 conditional claimer, non-winners to 2 lifetime, the 1-turn mile. I have it 4, 2, 1, and 6. Bartleby on top, just some numbers that stack up well with this bunch and consistent as well. Now, you go back 2, 3, 4 starts, was on the turf, but made that turf to dirt move that a lot of the horses this time of the year are making, and did so pretty well last time. Was well beaten, but running second was well clear also of the 3rd place horse. So I think has shown a little bit of an affinity for the main track. Bartleby seems kind of logical off of that last effort. Polar City, first off the claim for Jeremiah Englehart, but moves out of the barn of Linda Rice. So I don't know that we're going to see any vast improvement, but I think if we can hold firm to what we saw last time in the maiden breaker, that'll be good enough to be right in the mix with this group. And then the number 1, Daddy's Home, also first off the claim, also moves out of the Linda Rice barn, but moves into the barn of Gary Gullo. He's really good first off the claim. So again, I don't know whether we'll see market improvement, but I think with the first off the claim stats, you have to pay attention to that as well. And this one probably has to step up a little bit to be competitive, but there's some back numbers, and maybe with Gary Gullo and his first off the claim stats, we can get a little bit of a buyer jump that, again, will put this horse right in the thick of things. The 6th at Aqueduct, 4, 2, 1, and 6. Race number 7 at Aqueduct on Saturday afternoon, an allowance non-winners of 1 other than 6.5 furlongs. I have it 8, 2, 3, and 5. The number 8 is Shimmering Moon. Nice improving numbers over the past few starts. Finishing positions, a couple of wins in the last 4 starts, bookending a 2nd and a 3rd. So we have a horse in good form, firing good solid numbers. Now there has been a layoff since late November, but that's not an overwhelming layoff in this day and age, so I'm kind of discounting that. And that most recent form seems to have an edge on many of these in here. Now, Bluegrass Jamboree had a solid number 2 back, went in the wrong direction last time, but finished third in a stakes race. I'm going to go back to that race 2 back, though, and think maybe we can get a little bit closer to that one. Comes out with a nice bullet workout in tow as well. I think the Charlie Baker runner Bluegrass Jamboree can contend. Nisha is the interesting horse. Lost the rider last time. 2 starts back, was a wire-to-wire winner in good fashion with a good number, albeit on the turf. 3 starts back, however, on the dirt, a nice win with a nice number, comparatively speaking. Nisha's the one I'll be interested to see where the betting public goes, what kind of value this horse gets. But I think Nisha, the last race will darken the form a little bit, albeit most folks kind of get losing the rider. You're not going to count that against this one. And there are good enough numbers that I think this horse will take some action. So we'll see. It's a 9-2 morning line, but I think Nisha is clearly going to be a competitor as well. In the 7th at Aqueduct, 8, 2, 3, and 5. 8th race at Aqueduct, the rescheduled Jerome. We kick off baby steps on the Kentucky Derby Trail, New York version of the trail. The Jerome is for 3-year-olds, $150,000, the 1-turn mile. This is a nice race with some horses that can be contenders moving forward. 7, 2, 6, and 1. I put Frenzy Fire on top. I like that horse in the Champagne. We got 11 to 1 as that one, Frenzy Fire, beats Good Magic, the subsequent Breeders' Cup winner. Frenzy Fire kind of threw in a clunker in the Breeders' Cup. But again, I think this is a horse for Jason Service that has plenty of talent, and I think we saw closer to what we'll get today when this horse raced in the Champagne. I'm going to kind of draw a line through that Breeders' Cup. That seems like an aberrational start. Second spot, our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds have 7 trumpets for Dale Romans. We talked to Dale last week and wondered whether 7 trumpets would stick around and compete in the rescheduled Jerome. And Dale said, yep, he's up there in New York in the cold weather, shivering in the cold weather, as it were. And here he is right back. And I think this is a real budding, nice horse for West Point Thoroughbreds. The Ellis debut wasn't much, but then moved over to Churchill, broke the maiden nicely, went through a optional claimer first level nicely, and did so with some nice improving numbers. This, as I say, potentially this is a nice runner, and I think we'll get a real barometer on 7 trumpets on Saturday afternoon. Third spot, I went with Old Time Revival. Couple of starts as a 2-year-old in the summer of 2017 at Laurel. They weren't much. Then came back from a July to December layoff and essentially looked like a superstar. Now, off the first 2 starts, went off at 3 to 1 that day in a field of 6. So you kind of have to wonder, given what we saw in the first couple, how this horse was only 3 to 1. Maybe that wasn't a strong field, but boy, that was a pretty good looking performance with a pretty solid buyer for a 2-year-old at the end of the year. And subsequently, the horse fired a bullet workout at the end of December, best of 46. I'll be interested to see. We'll get a barometer on what that maiden breaker meant early in December for Old Time Revival. But I think there's a horse here that has some potential, and we'll find out more about it on Saturday afternoon. In the Aqueduct 8th, the Jerome, 7, 2, 6, and 1. Race number 9 wraps things up on Saturday afternoon at Aqueduct, a state-bred maiden 40 claimer, 6.5 the trip. I have a 3, 11, 12, and 13. The 13's an AE. If that one doesn't get in, take a look at the 2. But I put Hokalia, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, on top. Ken McPeak trainee. Just has some numbers that kind of stack up very, very nicely with this bunch. Goes maiden special weight to maiden claiming. Seems to make sense. Now a Factor, another horse making that maiden special to maiden claiming move with a number on the main track last time that indicates if this one moves forward a little bit with the class relief, could be very competitive. Can't We All Get Along? Kind of a similar situation to Now a Factor. Maiden special of maiden claiming. But the last 2 were on turf. You go back to the last dirt start, however, and I think, again, with the class relief today, if we move forward from that 49 buyer, can be up in the hunt. You Can't Catch My Breath, the number 13, a first-time starter from Rudy, I think could be live first time out, but if that one doesn't make it in, Nolinsky with the number 2 back when this horse was in for a maiden claiming tag could be very dangerous. Fun race to kind of wind up the afternoon at Aqueduct. But in the 9th, Saturday at Aqueduct, 3, 11, 12, and 13. 13 doesn't get in. Take an extra look at the 2. All right, let me hit some of the promos for Capital OTB. Saturday is a fan appreciation day at the Slate Valley Lanes Easy Bet. That's in Granville. If you're a patron at Slate Valley Lanes, swing on by. Give us our chance to say thank you to you for your patronage. That's Saturday at the Slate Valley Lanes Easy Bet. Saturday also kicks off the Road to Vegas handicapping contest. It'll go all year long. You have a chance to accumulate points, and at the end of the year, the highest point total players face off for a chance to win a seat to the NHC in Vegas. We kick things off Saturday, Road to Vegas handicapping contest. More information at the website, capitalotb.com. Sunday, there's playoff games in the NFL, so it's another NFL Sunday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Swing on by 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Enjoy all the football action, all the racing action as well. And finally, Bet 50, Get 50 continues through the month of January. Bet 50 into a brand new account, and you get $50 put into your account before the end of the month by Capital OTB. All right, you've been listening to the Handicappers Report. I'm Seth Merrill. A little bit earlier, Brian Edo took a look at Gulfstream. I looked at Aqueduct. If maybe you tuned in a little bit late or mark it on your notebook, you can always also catch us at the website, capitalotb.com. Click on the podcast link or catch us here on the network, Capital OTB TV. I'm going to wrap things up, but as always, good luck. We'll see you again.